Welcome to Ask and Learn.
So they want us to use the tournament sorting algorithm to order this set of numbers here. And so let's just kind of go through that process that they said. So what we're going to do is we're going to just order them like this, and then we're going to compare them. So they kind of do the first couple of these, but let's just go ahead and do it step by step. So we're going to first compare 22 and 8. So 22 is larger. Then we're going to compare 14 and 17. 17 is larger. We compared 3 and 9. 9 is larger. Then we compared 27 and 11, so 27 is larger. So the tournament was just asking, well, which one of these is larger? So you could also do it where it's the smallest one, but at least with the algorithm they're talking about, they chose the largest to move on to the next round. All right, so now we're going to repeat this again, but now we're going to do it with this second round. So we're going to compare 22 and 17. So between these, 22 is larger. Then we're going to compare 9 and 27, and 27 is larger. And then for our final round, we're going to compare 22 and 27, and 27 is larger. So what we learned from this is that 27 is our largest value. So we can come over here and put 27. All right, and then what they did after this was remove all of the 27s and replace it with a negative infinity. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this real quick. And now that we have this recopied, so let's just erase all of the 27s. And now down here at the very bottom where 27 was, like I was saying, we're going to put negative infinity. All right, so now we're going to repeat the same thing again. So notice how over here on the left side, we really don't need to do any comparisons. But if you're coming up with an algorithm for this, then you would want to start comparing at the bottom again for all of these. All right. So, but we're just going to do negative infinity and 11. So negative infinity, we assume is going to be smaller than every other value. So that means 11 wins this one. Now it's going to be 9 versus 11. Well, 11 is larger. Then it's going to be 22 versus 11. Well, 22 is larger. So that tells us that 22 is the largest. So before we had 27, now we have 22. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and copy this again really quickly. And so now, just like we did before with replacing 27 with negative infinity, we're going to replace 22 with negative infinity. So let's erase all of our 22s. And then everywhere there is a 22, we're going to put negative infinity. So let's just go ahead and start here. So only the left side we're going to have to really do anything with. So negative infinity versus 8, well, 8's larger, so that moves up. 8 versus 17, well, 17's larger, so that moves up. And then 17 versus 11, well, 17 is larger, so that moves up. So before we had 27, 22, and then we have 17. All right. Now we're going to copy this again and then replace all of the 17s with negative infinity. Now, like I was saying, we're going to replace all these 17s. So let's just start by putting negative infinity out here. So negative infinity versus 14, that's going to be 14. And then 8 versus 14, well, that's 14. And then 14 versus 11, that's 14 also. So we had 27, 22, 17, and now our largest is 14. Now we're going to copy this again, and then we're going to replace 14 with negative infinity. All right, so we get rid of this 14 now, since that was the winner of the last one. And we're going to replace that with another negative infinity. All right, so negative infinity versus negative infinity, well, that's the same. So we just move negative infinity up. Now 8 versus negative infinity, well, that's going to be 8 for the winner. And then 8 versus 11, well, 11's the winner there. Now we have 27, 22, 17, 14, and then 11. All right, so we'll copy this again, and then down here for that 11, we're going to replace it with negative infinity. All right, so we go ahead, get rid of all these 11s, and we're going to replace that with a negative infinity at the bottom here. So again, negative infinity versus negative infinity. Well, that's just negative infinity. Now 9 versus negative infinity, that's going to be 9, and then 9 versus 8, 9 is going to win that one. So over here, we'll have 27, 22, 17, 14, 11, and then 9. All right, so we get to copy this all again. Oops. All right. Now we replace all of the 9s with negative infinities. So we'll have negative infinity here. Oh, I forgot to erase this 9. So 3 versus negative infinity, 3 wins, 3 versus negative infinity, again 3, and now 3 versus 8, that would just be 8. So then over here we'd have 27, 22, 17, 14, 11, and 9. Oh, and then 8. And we can do this one more time to finish it off. And now for this last time, we replace all of these 8s with negative infinity. So let's see. So starting over here, we'd have negative infinity, both of those versus each other, still negative infinity, and then we just have 3. So then our list would be 27, 22, 17, 14, 11, 9, 8, and 3. And so this would be pretty much the whole thing, because notice if we then go ahead and replace all these 3s with negative infinities, we just have a full tree of negative infinity. And so that would go ahead and tell us that we should stop the algorithm. So yeah, just to kind of go back through what the process was that we did was, so up here at the start, we just ordered them however they were given to us, and then we compared each of these and then said, okay, which one of these is larger? All right, and then once we got there, then for that second round, we compared each of the pairs like this, got the largest, and then we finally compared our last two to give us the largest. And then whatever was up top, that gave us our largest value in this set. Then we went ahead and replaced 27 here, which was our largest, with negative infinity, and then erased all the 27s and then continued the tournament going about the same way. So that's pretty much how you would do this. Again, like I was saying, sometimes you will, instead of doing the largest, you'll do the smallest, and then you would just kind of repeat the same thing, but using positive infinity as opposed to negative infinity. So just kind of depends on which way you decide the tournament sort would work best.